So hi, welcome to End Credit Reviews, on episode of After the Credits on End Credit Reviews. It's just me, Tyler, this time from End Credit Reviews, and this is my review on the new Star Wars movie called Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Now, the thing is that my opinions on the Star Wars movies by Disney and even some of the prequels to an extent has kind of changed over time. And before I get into this new one, I think I should kind of briefly say my thoughts on the other Disney Star Wars movies, at least the episodes 7 and 8. So, The Force Awakens I liked when I first saw it in theaters, but this one I think was kind of fine, I guess. It was just too much of recycling old stuff and just kind of too much fan service. And then The Last Jedi, I mean, I will admit I did like the movie when I first saw it, but then I rewatched it a second time at home when it arrived on home video, and I thought to myself, man, this movie got a lot worse, and it really is one of the worst Star Wars movies ever made. So with this new one, I'm pretty aware that they were doing a lot of reshoots, and it was pretty much damage control the entire movie. So anyway, The Rise of Skywalker takes place at least 1 year after The Last Jedi, and Rey, played by Daisy Ridley, is being traded by Leia Organa, played by the late Carrie Fisher. Kylo Ren, who is played by Adam Driver, is now the Supreme Leader. But then, of course, the plot really comes together, and the main reason for the story is that of Emperor Palpatine, played again by Ian McDiarmid, is back from the dead somehow, and now it's up to the Resistance as well as Rey and her friends to try to find Emperor Palpatine and put his plan to an end before his new deadly secret kind of fleet attacks the galaxy. So honestly, in the beginning of the movie, I could tell the big problem with the movie is that there's a lot of things that kind of feel like there's just too much going on, just way too quick. And at the same time, yeah, I do agree. People are saying that feels like a 4-hour movie compressed in a 2.5-hour movie. And that's pretty right. In a way, I can understand how people were criticizing the Michael Bay Transformer movies by being kind of sensory overload. This one kind of felt like that in a very strange way, where it's really well made, at least shot very well, and also you could follow along what's going on, but there are times where I felt like, slow down, take some time to breathe. I think there was just one moment in this movie where they're going over the plan in the second half of the movie before the third act of the movie where it felt like, okay, they're actually taking time to develop characters and actually breathe. This one is just way too much like, here's there, we're going here, over there, over there, over there. Just like bang, bang, bing, bong, bong, like a pinball, going around a pinball machine, like ding, 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 ding. Just all these like flashy lights and graphics and other stuff like that. Just imagine that as the movie. And I can't really blame J.J. Abrams and company because they're really trying to not just kind of retcon some of the iffy things from The Last Jedi and also trying to make a very satisfying third movie in a trilogy, but also he's trying to get his ideas for he had ideas for The Force Awakens, and then Rian Johnson came in and just completely 180'd a lot of stuff, and then J.J. Abrams came in to try to salvage what Rian Johnson messed up. So, alright, so with the movie itself, I know the characters in general, I'm gonna get into some spoiler stuff later on. I can't really talk about a lot of the characters in this movie without spoiling it, so I'll get to a spoiler section pretty soon. So, I'm gonna talk about my thoughts on some of the newer characters that stood out to me. So, we have Richard E. Grant as General Pride. I guess he's kind of the new big bad general guy because General Hux, played by Domhnall Gleeson or Gleeson. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that name right, but he was basically just completely made a ragdoll in the second movie. So they actually have a respectable general who's someone you can kind of be intimidated by. And I know Richard E. Grant personally from one of my favorite movies. He played Dr. Stewart in Bram Stoker's Dracula, which is one of my absolute favorite movies of all time, and I think that movie is way better than this movie that I'm reviewing right now. But anyway, the other one would be Kerry Russell as Zora Bliss, who is someone who kind of knew Poe Dameron before he joined the Resistance, and Honestly, I felt like her character was just mildly unnecessary to the story, but they do find a way to shoehorn her in. But around that time where we get introduced to her character involving C-3PO's character in this droid shop, there's a part in the shop where it's a bunch of droid, junk and that sort of deal. And in the background, I actually saw a battle droid from the Star Wars prequels, so I'm like, okay, that's a pretty cool Easter egg and nod to the prequels and that. But also early on, when Finn and Poe are doing this kind of secret mission and they interact with this one alien, I'm looking at it at IMDb right now, and I could have swore that was Mark Hamill voicing that alien, because it really did sound a lot like his Joker voice from Batman the Animated Series, and the other times that Mark Hamill has voiced the Joker, either in the DC Animated Universe or outside of that as the Joker, but it just really sounded like that because I've just heard that so many times, because Batman the Animated Series was pretty much my childhood. But I digress. So I'm gonna get into spoiler stuff right now. So anyway, so with the characters themselves, I thought it was an interesting kind of twist that Rey is the descendant of Palpatine. I guess she's the granddaughter, so... But also, speaking of Palpatine, the one thing that kept bugging me with the movie is that they don't really explain why he's alive still. I thought he got thrown down that shaft and obliterated in the second Death Star, so... How is he alive? They don't explain why he's still alive. They could have just told us in like a 1-minute flashback. But again, this movie moves so fast where it expects the audience not to really notice and just forget about it. Oh, here's the next, big flashy thing. We're just gonna keep moving on so fast to kind of glance over it. Again, they add upon what you can do with the Force, like you can kind of sense other people and also heal others as well. I felt like they did a good job with that. I know with the Mandalorian TV show, they kind of established that with the Baby Yoda character, aka the child. And I thought that was interesting. I did like how they got Kylo Ren's character from someone who was a Sith to eventually joining Rey to kind of take on the Emperor. I liked that kind of story arc, what they did with it. And also, I did like the cameo appearance that Harrison Ford came back as kind of a memory of the dead Han Solo that came back to kind of talk to his son. I really liked that part. And with Carrie Fisher, there were scenes I could tell where they had a CGI body double, but it was pretty good CGI. Now, the third act of the movie definitely felt big, but kind of restrained at the same time. I felt like they should have had more kind of like... Sorry, that was just my arm just like cracking a bit, so... I just felt like they should have had a bit more time on the action with all these like big fleets and all these ships going. I felt like they really should have spent more time on that and just milking that, but it just felt, again, they restrained it too much. And then the final scene where they, at least when Rey defeats Emperor Palpatine, was a little bit cliched and a little underwhelming, at least in my opinion. But I did like the fact when the voices of the Force Ghosts were being heard, like you could hear Liam Neeson, who played Qui-Gon Jinn, and Anakin Skywalker, who was played by Hayden Christensen, and other actors who were in the Star Wars prequels. You could hear their kind of Force ghosts kind of encouraging Rey. And personally, thinking about it now, I felt like they should have had the Force ghosts of those characters come back to also help Rey to defeat Emperor Palpatine. I felt like that would have been kind of cool to see that happen. So overall, I thought that The Rise of Skywalker is a very entertaining but kind of a messy movie in ways. It kind of moves, a bit too quick at times for a movie that's over 2 hours long. This movie felt like they had so many ideas that they just wanted to compress within a short amount of time, and in ways it works and in ways it doesn't work. So it's an enjoyable movie. I will say I do like it more than The Force Awakens because it's not just another retrend on an old movie, and it's not like The Last Jedi where there's so many dumb and questionable moments in it. So as for Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, I would give this movie about 2.5 to 3 stars out of 4. So anyway, this is Tyler from End Credit Reviews, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of After the Credits on End Credit Reviews, and I hope to make a lot more in the future. Please like and subscribe.